We're ready.
All right, we're ready now. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our event this morning to the Latinx Businesses Navigating 2020. My name is Angela Garcia. I am the Director of Business Development at La Paz Chattanooga Compañía. We are very excited once again to be part of Startup Week Chattanooga, helping create awareness of the impact of our local Latino entrepreneurs in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. Thank you for joining us today for this special session to talk about how Latino entrepreneurs are navigating everything that has been going on this year, from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic to the impact of the tornadoes and everything that comes along with that. Thank you to our panelists for participating today and willing to share some of your experiences and time with us and help other entrepreneurs understand how we're navigating as Latino business community all these happenings. A quick note before we begin, please select the mute option on your screen, so we will that allows everyone to have a really good hearing of the panelists and the presentation. And we will also have time at the end for questions and answers, so please, you can make notes or put those questions in the chat and we will address those at the end. And going back to our topic, in the last few years we have seen a rapid growth in the Latino business community, which is a national trend, and Chattanooga is included in that. The Latino entrepreneurs and those businesses are an essential and rapidly growing part in the U.S. economy. As much as we are in the same boat, with resources as a part of the entire community and the business ecosystem, we recognize that for the Latino community, there are additional challenges we have to face. In our national sample of Latino-owned employer businesses, which is, a different category as well, we find that Latinos have fewer resources to weather the storm, the impact of COVID-19. When the pandemic was declared in early March, no one had a manual with instructions on how to respond and prepare to the effects of the pandemic. And those effects were both immediate and largely negative for Latinos, as the Latino community was very vulnerable and was recognized as the first community where the positive cases were growing really fast. So it overall affected the community, but it also brought a different type of stress to the Latino business owners. So throughout the presentation today, we would like to address some of these questions, some of these happenings, and how our Latino business owners in Chattanooga are navigating all these effects.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irma Velasquez, and before we get into the meat of our session, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Compañía. And before we talk about Compañía, we need to start with talking about La Paz. I think most of you are familiar with La Paz. La Paz has been around for about 16 years now, and it started as a social service agency. We now have 3 departments, which is our social impact, our community engagement education, and Compañía. So our social impact department works with families and individuals on a one-to-one basis and assesses their particular needs, whether it's they need assistance with food, or maybe they just need some guidance in how to navigate enrolling their kids in school, or health insurance, or just reaching some of those resources that are available to them in different government agencies. They also partner with different organizations and offer at time, education pieces like with Tech Goes Home or other organizations. We have our community engagement and education department assists families in a different way. So it's providing information such as health, bringing speakers, having small groups that meet throughout the city, having language exchange programs and enrichment activities, also different training and different crafts or trades. And Compañía is our business development arm of La Paz. So like we said, La Paz started about 16 years ago, and the needs of Chattanooga were different then. the Latino population wasn't as big and wasn't as diverse as it is today. So when that started to change, I'd say about in the past 10 years, we saw a lot more entrepreneurs and Latino business owners, which is a great thing. With those come additional needs. It's not easy to open up a business for anybody. There's a lot of things you need to navigate through and you need to know, and you make sure you comply with all these permits and license and restrictions and everything there is around that. Now, if you add to that maybe English is not your primary language and that your culture might be different, so maybe things are done differently in your country, those resources were lacking. So that's where Compañía comes in, and we try to fill that void, whether it is by helping Latino business owners just find the different government agencies that they need to go to file the different permits, offering workshops to them, and information sessions, bringing experts to talk to them about, filing their taxes or legal requirements or human resources, just different topics that are of our interest to them. And most of the time available in Spanish, which would be their native language in most cases. We also serve as a bridge with local organizations and companies, businesses that want to reach the Latino market. Either they have a business, they have services or products that they want to make the Latino population aware of. So that's kind of, Compañía and La Paz in a little nutshell. And I think most of you are familiar, but it's always good to remind people what are the different, areas of La Paz and Compañía.
Thank you, Irma. And we would also like to just give a quick snip of our population growth. This is the last number we received from Hamilton County Department of Education on the numbers of students in Hamilton County schools this year. So we went up to 17%. So this is just a number that represents the overall population, but that doesn't mean we are all included in that number. Keeping in mind that not all Latino families have their kids registered in the Hamilton County school system. Not all Latino entrepreneurs or Latino families have a school-age kids that attend, Hamilton County schools, or those families that which kids attend private schools or homeschools. So, we estimate that the number is a little over 20%. So it is a very, very, very impactful number that tells the impact of the Latino community in our city, not only for the community itself, but how the entrepreneurial community is growing.
And just to give you a little glimpse of what that looks like as far as for the business community, we have over 180 local Latino-owned businesses. We know there's over 180 because a lot of them don't have physical addresses because their business don't require them. So maybe someone that has landscaping business may not necessarily have a business address or an office because it's not necessary for their particular trait. A lot of people have the concept that maybe Latinos have just restaurants and landscaping or construction. But the reality is that we have Latinos that do own the restaurants and bakeries and catering companies. We all have the tiendas, which are the grocery stores. They do also own construction and remodeling businesses, landscaping. But there are also law firms, accounting firms, multi-services, marketing, communications, car dealerships, dentist office, jewelry stores, beauty salons, auto repair, upholstery, handcrafted goods, clothing and gift shops, nutrition clubs, and sometimes we don't think of the e-commerce. We have a lot that work from home nowadays and sell from their home. So again, maybe we wouldn't find those listed with a physical address. They don't maybe have a shop or because they operate from home, but they are business owners. I can't hear you, Angela.
Sorry, I got to mute. Keeping that in mind, we recognize that Chattanooga is home of a very diverse group of Latino entrepreneurs. And now we would like to introduce our panelists. They bring an amazing talent to our city, representing different cultures, not only their heritage, but a business culture as well. And they also offer services that serve the Latino community as well as the non-Latino community. So I'm very pleased to present and introduce our panelists. panelists today, we have Jocelyn Loza from Hoopla Marketing Now, Jorge Loa from Super Carnicerias Loa, Roberto Venegas from Leones, El Trio, and Cheese Dip Mexican Grill, and Vivian Anderson Barrera from Maya Professional Services. We have a little video to show you about them.
Hello everyone, my name is Roberto Venegas and I'm the founder of Leones, which is a branding and marketing firm. I'm a native from Mexico and I moved to Chattanooga 17 years ago. At Leones, our goal is to help other business grow. That's why our slogan is Let's Grow Together.
Hello everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jorge Loa, but I go by George. I am from Baja California, Mexico. I've been in this great country for the past 20 years, and I am the senior manager here at Super Carnicerias Loa, where I oversee and administer the day-to-day operations for the stores here in Chattanooga.
Hi, I'm Vivian Anderson Barrera. I am the owner of Maya Professional Services. We specialize in working with Latino-owned businesses in Chattanooga and providing bookkeeping and tax services. I am originally from Guatemala.
We do have one more panelist who chose not to provide a video, but I'm sure she still wants to introduce herself. Jocelyn?
Yeah, I just didn't have the time. I do apologize, with homeschooling and running a business and that life balance, with this pandemic, it has been interesting. My name is Jocelyn Loza. I am the owner and founder and marketing consultant for Hoopla Marketing Now and founder of Latina Professionals. I'm originally from Chicago, born and raised. Grew up in a very cultural family household, father Salvadoran and mom Puerto Rican. And I've been here in Chattanooga for about 10 years, relocated 10 years ago.
Thank you, Jocelyn. So the following question we would like all four panelists to answer. We know that 2020 has been challenging for all. However, business owners don't just face the personal adaptation and stress. They also have to think about their businesses, their employees, their customers, suppliers, partners, etc. So since we have panelists here from different backgrounds, we'd like to hear what has been the biggest challenge you have faced as a business owner in 2020. Roberto, would you like to answer that first?
Yeah, well, first, thank you, Angela and Irma, for having us. The biggest challenge for me has been the unknown, like just not knowing how to manage this. It's been so much information that we have to adapt to it. The new regulations and all that just keeps changing. And I guess to me the overall would be that, the unknown, just not knowing how to handle this, how to navigate it.
Thank you, Roberto. Jocelyn, would you like to answer next?
Sure. Keep forgetting to unmute myself. Well, I think for me, the biggest challenge my agency has faced, like most small businesses, especially those who rely mostly on clients and customers, is just, is losing clients, hence reduction in capital for myself. Some of my clients had to reduce their spending costs, and marketing is unfortunately the first one that they cut because they're trying to survive financially through all this pandemic, which is the unknown at this time. Unfortunately, they also assume that doing their own marketing in-house is a smart choice. However, it's a little bit confusing, and they stop focusing on leveling up their marketing, especially during this pandemic. Social media, you can go viral. But unfortunately for me, it has been where my clients have cut their marketing costs.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Vivian, would you like to answer next?
Sure. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, as everybody was answering, I think I feel the same way as Roberto and Jocelyn, just the change in the dynamics of our industries and feeling overwhelmed. But I also kind of went through, like, over the last 7 months, which really feels like 7 years, how much it has changed. It seemed like every month was some new crisis that we had to deal with. And for me, the biggest challenge was trying not to be overwhelmed and figuring out where to focus my efforts, where I could make the biggest impact for my clients, for my employees, and to maintain some sort of mental health for myself. So not just being an accountant, a business owner, but being a counselor, being a grieving counselor. It is so much. The emotion aspect of it, the business aspect of it has been a lot.
Thank you, Vivian. Jorge, would you like to answer next?
Yes. First of all, thank you to Compañía for hosting this panel and for considering me coming on the panel. Echoing off of just what everybody else said, it has just been a crazy last couple of months having to adapt to a new situation. It seemed like every week. I don't think any of us know we have been doing the right thing. I think we will in the future, but right now we're going through something that, you know, even our parents or maybe our grandparents have never been through. So we don't know how to navigate it. We just kind of adapt to the situation and, you know, make the best decision possible. And like they said, you know, having to wear many hats, you know, not just in the business aspect of it, but being there for your employees, not thinking of just the employees, but of the customers as well. So many changes to how you operate and how you do things. It's just been it's been an experience to say the least. But I believe that, you know, these moments are only going to make us stronger. I mean, if we can navigate through this situation, I mean, what can't we navigate through?
So true. Thank you, Jorge.
I think our community is of people resilience. I mean, we've gone through so much throughout our history. So I think we can do this, Jorge. We got this, Jorge.
Thank you. Well, and thank you for Jorge for mentioning the you know, how do you adapt? You know, that was one of the challenges. And our next question is related to that word, you know, an adaptation, because new strategies have been developed to provide customers good service, meet their expectations, and keep their business, you know, keep the business afloat. But for many, it has been an opportunity to reinvent your business and yourself as an entrepreneur. Latinos, I think that's something that we find resourceful is that we are used to go through adaptation processes. Just because we have to adapt to a new culture, we have to adapt our families to be bicultural, because, you know, so we understand the adaptation process. But would you, I'm just going to ask again for all the panelists to answer this question. What did you do to adapt your business? Jorge, now that, you know, that you just mentioned the word, if you can go ahead and would like to share with us.
Man, how have we been adapting in everything? Having to change our hours to give us time to disinfect, clean, having to have the employees coming earlier to make sure that all of that is ready to go. The face mask requirements, which at first was a big pushback for us, but, you know, we can get more into that in the next questions. But yeah, it's just had to change. You know, we've had to adapt in every area, how we interact, you know, putting in those plastic dividers to separate us from the employees. Trying to maintain social distance has been very difficult for us because, you know, if you guys have visited the Loas before, you know, we don't have the biggest building, and, you know, we try and offer a large variety of different stuff. So sometimes room may be an issue. Having to limit the number of people coming in to the business as one, you know, at a time, you know, having to make people form a line outside, you know, and man, what else? Educating the employees about the symptoms, if they feel bad or whatever, and, you know, having to adapt even to if there is someone that's sick. And, you know, it seems like every symptom that COVID has, just like anything, right? Like, I mean, you sneeze and you're like, oh my gosh, do I have COVID? And so it's just been having to adapt and having to send them home because, you know, you're trying to be safe and having to work around schedules and having to have people cover. And, you know, it's just, I mean, the key word here is adapting, and it's just been so much.
Thank you, Jorge. Yes, we understand, you know, that there are some voluntary adaptations that you can manage with your business, and there are some involuntary adaptation that it just comes with the response. All right, Jocelyn, would you like to share with us what did you do to adapt your business to the needs of your clients?
Sure. Yeah, I unmuted myself. So as well as a marketing agency, I've noticed that, again, many of my clients and companies are using more marketing efforts in-house. With them going in-house, using their marketing in-house, I've seen a lot of them do it incorrectly. So what I've intentionally have done is offer free marketing tips and resources. They are on our website on hooplamarketingnow.com. And the first thing you'll see is a button that offers resources for businesses on how to navigate through this pandemic. Because one thing that unfortunately a lot of companies don't think about is creating a crisis management plan, which should be part of their marketing plan or business plan. And unfortunately, a lot of them were caught scrambling because they didn't know what to do when there is a crisis. So, crisis management plan is a what if kind of plan. What if this happens? This is how you manage things. This is how you provide this resources. And so you won't be crumbling and again, scrambling through this whole pandemic. So what I've done, I've again intentionally been offering free marketing tips and resources. I've been posting them all over our social media platform. Again, our website has all this resources and crisis management resources available. So if anyone wants to go in there and check it out, please do so. There are articles in there. There's a free recovery playbook that businesses can use. It's a checklist if they're doing their marketing correctly during this time.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And feel free to add that to the chat so everyone has that resource available. Vivian, would you like to share with us how did you adapt your business to the needs of your customers and the people you serve?
Yeah, well, I definitely was, I was one of the people, one of the businesses that did not have a crisis plan. And we were, like all of us probably we were completely unprepared when this happened. We run a business that so much of it depended on having face-to-face contact with our clients, not because it's necessary for the business, but because that's how our clients prefer to see us for the most part. So we were unprepared. And I think the first couple of months was just a matter of figuring out how we were going to move from in-person meetings that lasted 2 hours probably, to keeping them short, to talking by phone, doing Zoom, figuring out what was my best angle in Zoom. Yeah. But it was just like such a transition for us, those first couple of months, how to adapt to being there for our clients, and being there in a way that was still comfortable but safe. We had a lot of clients at the beginning that were impacted by COVID. I think every day for the first couple of months, and I think maybe May, we would find out whether one of our clients was testing positive, and that just shook us so much. And now we've definitely developed a system of calling them on a regular basis, doing a lot of texting. We've moved so much of our operations to texting. And also when they come to our office, having protocols for safety, the shield, like George said, and wearing the masks all the time. But I do want to thank Jocelyn for bringing that to my attention when I actually talked to her at the beginning of the pandemic, because whatever happens in the next 6 months, we're going to be ready, and who knows what's going to happen, right? But we're going to be ready. We are ready for whatever's coming next. So part of adapting has been to learn to adapt for the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Vivian. Appreciate your input. Roberto, would you like to share with us? You also work in the marketing field, and you work with customers. Most of that is been face-to-face throughout, since your business has started. Have you adapt your businesses to work during this time?
Well, actually, for me, having business in different states, that was definitely an extra challenge for me, because the regulations in one state were different from the other. So even that was like having to learn the regulations from Georgia and then the regulation from Tennessee was definitely a challenge. But at the end, I think just being creative by how to do business was what really helped us. So we start adapting by, implementing more online ordering, let's say for the restaurants, to help them out. Again, changing the hours, reducing stuff, which that was not a fun part, kind of weather the toughest part. There was a lot of changes, but for me, definitely that was kind of the best way that I was able to handle it, just being creative about how to market, using definitely online marketing. It's our main thing. Stop doing like printed marketing for some of them, because, you cannot even share things with people, like flyers, you cannot hand them to them, and things like that. I guess that was definitely the way I adapted.
Thank you, Roberto. Yeah, and as a customer, I think a lot of people are in the same boat. We're very thankful that restaurants have become more savvy on the online offerings and delivery offerings, because I think that range of services has grown, and it is that way. It opens more opportunities not only for businesses but for customers as well to be served. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I just interject a little? I think the amazing thing about this pandemic is, I've always done digital marketing. It's just that the fact that businesses are really going and digging into their resources online. And that's the amazing piece, that people are finally getting into the digital platform and using that to their advantage.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
The following question will be primarily for our panelists that have a certain number of employees. And now we know that as a business owner, you're also a leader. Your employees will look up to you for guidance. So will your customers, but primarily your employees. So they'll need your guidance. And at the same time, you also have to ensure that you comply with the changing mandates. That's also an important aspect. So for those of you with employees, and we'll start with Jorge in a minute, what has been your strategy for communicating and training employees to ensure compliance of government mandates and requirements?
When this first started, I made it a point to, since I pride myself a lot in the relationship that I have formed with my employees, given that, I was in the same position as them. And I made it a point at the beginning of the pandemic to be able to group everybody together at each store and just pretty much communicate to them, like, guys, either we work together to be on the same page and hold each other accountable in these tough times, or we decide to just not care, fall apart, and everybody just had their own way. So that's one part that I'm very thankful for, was being able to effectively communicate with my employees. But not only that, but like being able to get the type of response that I did, where they did realize that we needed to adapt to these new changes of wearing masks and washing your hands more often than they were already doing, and trying to maintain social distancing. Me being in my position, I already ask a lot of them. I have expectations, and I expect them to fulfill those expectations. And I just felt like at that time I was on top of all of that. Now you guys have to also do all of these other things. And, thankfully, nobody gave me pushback, and we were all able to work together, not just in each individual store, but like as the whole company of the Loas here in Chattanooga. Not just for their own safety, but for the safety of the employees, of the customers, I'm sorry. And there's something I say a lot, where if you have good communication, then that leaves no room for misunderstandings or for things not to go right. If you have effectively good communication, you should be able to obtain what you want without there being any mishaps or any mistakes.
Thank you, Jorge. Roberto, what have been some of the strategies you have used to communicate and train your employees?
Well, like I say again, mention it again, like having the business in different states and different, industries, like the restaurant industry, the mandates in Georgia were different than the mandates here in Tennessee. So first, I guess I was trying to learn as much as possible for myself first and kind of sort through the information because there was so much information and so many changes that it was hard to keep up. So I didn't want it to overwhelm my employees. So one of the things that I did was just trying to sort through as much as I could and the best that I could in order to communicate more effective with them. So we'd use posters or the flyer that even you guys made. We were watching videos together, and that's kind of the way we did it, I guess. But just a lot of communication at the end of the day, just often, because the information kept changing. So we were trying to keep them up to date on the new requirements and how we needed to go about it, I guess.
Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you. And again, when we talk about the bigger picture of the Latino business owners, we also talk about the picture of the consumers, the customers, how we have to culturally competently, or how we have to think about serving them in a cultural competent way. For a lot of our businesses, we have essential workers, and these workers cannot work remotely. So I think adapting to that and just offering a different set of understanding to make sure they feel comfortable coming to work, but also that the customers feel confident to come back. It's a really hard work for the local businesses at this point. But thank you for all that you've done to make the community feel safe as they work with you. And now that I just touched into the being culturally competent, through those challenges and working with the community, we have a lot that we've learned. I think through as Jorge mentioned, and I think Roberto as well, every day looked different. At some point, we were receiving so much information that it was hard to gather it all and see what we could use best for businesses and resources. But Latino business owners remain equally optimistic about being able to recover from the negative effects of the pandemic and just to thrive in the times that we're living. What have you learned through the challenges in 2020, and what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs, either those who are thinking or doing working on a startup business, or those who are pretty new to the ecosystem? What is that advice that you could give? Vivian, would you like to share with us first?
I'm thinking to my clients and how they responded to the crisis. And while we have some businesses that did close, we've also had a lot of new businesses open over the last 6 months. And my advice to them has been, be flexible. You're starting in a new setting that's completely different. But I think the advice that they've given me is to not give up. It's to be resilient, to still go forward with whatever dreams is that they have. So to be cautiously optimistic is what I would say. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, and throw your whole dream out there to make it possible. So that's advice that they've given me, really. It's not advice that I can give them. It's something that my clients have given me. I think that's something that all of us can take, not just as entrepreneurs, but just as human beings.
Thank you, Vivian. Jocelyn, would you like to share with us what advice, besides, the plan that you just mentioned before, what other strategies or advice would you give entrepreneurs?
Okay, I'm actually going to talk about the challenges through this pandemic, what I've personally have gone through, because it's going to go rolling into what I can advise business owners. I think for me personally has been, like Vivian has mentioned, we are resilient. I knew I was a strong person, but mentally, I didn't really look into that until later on, because for me, I have 2 young children. So does my husband. He also works from home. So that's the advantage that I have. And I guess the partnership that I have with him is just amazing. So he's been very helpful. And so we've balanced ourselves where, you know, we homeschool, but we also balance our business. And I think being at home more has made me to chill a little and to really not be so hard on myself and to really relax and understand that, hey, you know what, tomorrow's another day. Or you can give yourself more 2 days to figure out a few things. And it's okay to tell your client, hey, you know, I'll call you tomorrow if that's okay. And they're very understanding. My clients have been very understanding because they're also going through some turmoil as well and trying to understand not only themselves, but their business and the whole resources provided and all that stuff. I guess the one advice I would definitely give any entrepreneur is truly understand your industry. Understanding your industry is a key to success. And always stay current with what is occurring in your industry. Also, having a crisis management plan, again, is very important. Again, a crisis management plan is a well-documented set of resources that a response that will help you to navigate those what-if moments. You know, unfortunately, critical situations like the pandemic. So again, truly understand your industry, the key trends, but also understand yourself before you make any decision.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Jorge, would you like to share with us what have you learned through the challenges in 2020, and what advice could you give to other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand, you know. Obviously, you got to be patient during these times. There's going to be a lot of things that don't go your way in these situations. It's important not to get frustrated. You know, when you implement new changes, you're going to get a lot of pushback, even given the circumstance that you're in. You know, we would try to implement new, ways of operating, and we would have customers that would get upset about having to wear a face mask inside or having to sanitize before going inside. And so just not getting frustrated, being patient, educating yourself on the matters, and being able to communicate that to your team as you get new information every day, every week, and not just to the employees, but to the customers as well, about why you're doing these changes and what plans you have in mind with that. And then, Jocelyn mentions family. I think it's also important to be relying on your family, with my wife, and given all these changes that have happened, it was nice to be able to come home to my wife and be able to express my frustrations and get advice from her, just kind of feel grounded just with everything going on, because there were days where it just felt like I just couldn't get a win. Like it was just one thing after the other. So yeah, that would be my advice from my experiences of what I've learned.
Thank you, Jorge. Definitely a lot to keep up with. Roberto, would you like to share with us what are those challenges? What did you learn from those challenges, and your advice to other entrepreneurs?
For me, I just learned how resilient humans are. That was definitely one of the biggest things, how from every industry, everyone was adapting, everyone was trying to do the best they can from every angle, I guess. And to me, this keeps, I guess, on building on how important to keep building myself, to keep, I guess that would be one of the advice, to keep, learning, to keep improving. Because the more you know, the more you learn, like they were saying, staying up to date to your industry, or just keep learning on that, or managing your emotions, or managing the way, you live your life. That way you can have the strength to go back and do it again. Because every day, some days feels like you just want to throw the towel and be like, okay, this is too much. But at the end of the day, going home, reading, learning that this will pass, we'll go through this. And I guess that would be for me, the resilience. And I guess for us Latinos, we definitely, especially some of us that come from different countries, we learn that in our countries, we don't have as many opportunities. We don't have as many resources. We don't have as many support. So, and then coming here, it's just a whole, new set of challenges. So this was, at the end of the day, to me, this was just another challenge on top of what we went through, I guess. Definitely a new one, definitely something we didn't expect, and it would be very hard to, foresee or plan. But I guess my advice would be to keep pushing, to keep moving. If you keep moving forward, eventually you'll get there. Even if it's a little bit, even if some days feels like it's not that much, but as long as you keep moving forward, I think that's the right way to do it.
Thank you, Roberto. For a lot of you, it's not only staying strong, but keeping your customers strong, keeping them, positive, and offering them resources to thrive and pivot the situation. Thank you.
Angela, can I add just something to kind of jump off of what you're saying? I think right now it's so important to be connected to a network of other business owners, whether it's something like this panel or being subscribed to newsletters, because it is true that it is a very challenging time, but there are a lot of resources right now that we can tap into. And especially for minority-owned business owners, women-owned business owners, there are a lot of grants out there that I myself didn't know were out there. And it's an opportunity of a lifetime for a lot of the resources that are available to businesses. So we're in communication with our clients on a regular basis. And anytime we hear of an opportunity, we immediately contact and let them know. Or if someone sends us information about something, we send it to them. I know Compañía also has regular emails that you send out to your members. So make sure that you tap into something that will curate the information that's pertinent to your industry.
Thank you, Vivian. We appreciate your input.
Well, we've talked about, of course, plenty about the challenges that we've faced in 2020 and adaptability and even the emotions of it all. Throughout this, not just COVID-19, but also the Eastern tornadoes, which I think some areas of Chattanooga are still struggling with. There's also been resources that have come from that, whether they're federal or local resources, were made available, especially to help businesses cover certain costs, such as your rent, your payroll, utilities, and there's also some agencies that provided personal protective equipment. Did you find the necessary resource available for your business in our ecosystem, or what do you believe Chattanooga's ecosystem could do to support local businesses? Vivian, would you like to share?
I definitely will say that we were overwhelmed with the amount of work that we had to take on. But just beyond doing our regular accounting and payroll services, we had to become grant writers. We had to do so much more for our clients to get them the resources that were there. So I do think that the resources are out there. I think the issue for our Latino-owned businesses is accessibility to those resources. Knowing that they're there and being able to apply and receive them, I think are two different questions. I think our ecosystem does have that. We have Compañía, we had programs by the federal government, programs by the state government, but the pathways to help Latino or minority-owned businesses to receive that, I think those were lacking. The city of Chattanooga had grants that were available right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I tried to submit as many applications as we could for our clients, but none of them were funded because we did not have, my clients couldn't do it on their own. They were requiring our assistance, and we just couldn't help everybody. So the city meant well, and I worked with the city to get this information out there, but once the application was in English or they didn't have a business plan, they weren't able to access them. So I think the opportunities are there, but we need to create access points for people to actually take advantage of them.
Thank you, Vivian. Jocelyn, would you like to share next?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the first few months, I think we were all scrambling to try to understand the resources that were available for different industries. For marketing, it was a little bit different because I am home base. So there was a lot of things that were not available to me as an e-commerce as well. But I believe that one of the organizations that was very, besides Compañía en La Paz, United Way, they offered a lot of information, and the EDNI also provided a lot of information for businesses, especially for marketing and e-commerce businesses. So and being part of their committees and their phone calls, listening to all this information, and then extracting that information and then filtering it through clients that I know they're struggling specifically on what they're looking for. So I was able to, let's just say the first few months was like Zoom overwhelmed. It was overwhelmed with Zoom conference, virtual conferences, and it was a lot. But I used myself as I guess, a tool to extract that information from all these calls and try to filter it through all the businesses and clients that I knew needed that information. As for the Latino community, working with Vivian right after this pandemic, oh my gosh, she has used Vivian a lot. I mean, she's so resourceful and knowledgeable. She was part of my podcast for Latinx professionals, and she talked about the PPP loans and all that stuff, which I wasn't even aware of, thanks to her. So I think, again, like she mentioned, is just using the resources within our community and extracting that information, the resources that we have to the people that really need it. And again, it's not just putting it on a newsletter, it's also making something tangible, because not everyone has internet, unfortunately. So just making sure that information is there for them, for everyone.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Oh, wrong button. Jorge, would you like to share next?
Yeah, so I share in the same experiences. When this first started, we were all scrambling, and I think I remember looking online at the city's website, just trying to find any information about, regulations or anything that we could, an outline that we could kind of base off of what we needed to do and how to do it correctly. But I get it, since it was new to everybody, maybe those sources weren't readily available at the time. But as time has progressed, I know that the city of Chattanooga has those sources for business owners, and I think it's divided by the type of businesses that you have, and how to go about it, and how many people to let in, and all these different regulations. So I at first I did struggle to find resources, but that's completely understandable. As time progressed and we realized that this wasn't going to be something that was going to go in a month or so, like most people thought, you started finding more of those things. Something that helped us out a lot was the mandates of the masks. I think that helped a lot, because at first it was something that we try to implement in the stores, and yeah, like I said, we received a lot of pushback, and we felt like it impacted our business in a negative way. But once we were able to kind of use that mandate to back us up, and making it a requirement to go into a business, that helped us out tremendously. So I have been able to benefit from those resources and from the city's help.
Thank you, Jorge. Roberto, would you like to share?
I mean, if anything, there was a lot of resources for sure, but it was just so much that it was just so hard to know what applies to me, what applies, how can we use it, how can we ask for it. I guess the information was definitely there. Sorting through was the hard part. But I mean, at the end of the day, I guess I was thinking, the government's trying to do, I guess, what they can to, or even the other organizations that were trying to do it too. But they were going through it as well, I guess. So they were trying to do what they could. But at the end of the day, I mean, the resources were there. We were able to access some of them, some of the businesses, not for all of them. So for us, it was the resources were there, and we did feel that, I guess, they helped. And we did find, the Chattanooga or state or even, the country was trying to do the best they could on that end, I guess. For us, they were there. They was just hard to navigate them.
Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you for sharing all that information. And before we close, we have still a few minutes. We would like to open it up for questions and answers for the Q&A time. So if you would like to jump in on, unmute yourself and ask the question or put it in the chat, whatever works best for you. We just would like to share as much as we can on how these Latino entrepreneurs have been navigating 2020 and along with challenges and opportunities. And I don't know if someone is ready for a question, or I have one that I would like to ask, but I'll wait for if anybody else is ready to ask a question. All right, I'll go with mine then. Well, and this is for Jorge with the Carnicerias Loa stores, because I've been curious to know, and I can see the extra challenge or additional challenges that you might have bringing consumer goods, because in our countries, I'm from Colombia, South American, and the majority of the Latin American countries have had different restrictions on, they close airports, they close commerce, they close, several of the business-like initiatives throughout, several months. So, I've been wondering if would supply chains hold up, and how these businesses like Carnicerias Loa that depends on those supply chains to bring goods from abroad, has that affected your business, or how have you been navigating that?
Hang on, okay, just want to make sure I wasn't muted. Man, it affected us in so many ways. When the pandemic first started, the first things to go were the canned goods, the toilet paper, all of our cleaning supplies. And then once we cleared out of that, it was very difficult to get our hands on a lot of those stuff. Stuff that, perishable item or non-perishable items, that, people were looking for, because they didn't know at the time, a lot of people thought they were going to be in their house 2-3 months without being able to leave. And it was just I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And so yeah, that part was very difficult. Aside from the availability of things that we weren't able to get our hands on once this started, our prices, the prices in our meat went up a lot because they had to shut down a lot of factories and a lot of places a lot of distribution. So it was harder to get a lot of, the diezmillo for the carne asadas. I think at one point it was almost close to $10 a pound. And that part was so stressful, just because, having to adapt, and not knowing if customers were going to understand or not, but, knowing also that a lot of like the big chain stores like Walmart and, Food Lion, like a lot of places weren't getting it. In fact, we found a lot of customers coming to us because they couldn't find their chicken breast or their ground beef, which was some of the things that were hard to get your hands on at the time when it first started. So yeah, it had a huge impact on us, not just in a lot of items that we weren't able to get in for a couple of months because there was such a high demand on them, as well as our prices, everything kind of skyrocketing because of that same demand. So that was pretty difficult to navigate through, but thankfully our customers were understanding of it, and we were able to pull ahead, and it seems that as far as that goes, things have stabilized again. We've been able to restock our shelves with the things that are needed, and our prices are mostly back to normal.
Well, thanks for sharing, Jorge. Yeah, I was wondering about that, because I can definitely see that as a challenge. Well, we have a question in the chat from Paulo Hudson. Thank you, Paulo, for your question. And this is probably for, whoever from the panel would like to jump in and answer. It's, in your experience as a Latino business, do you find it easy to get acceptability and support from the general community here in Chattanooga?
Paolo, you always come up with the good questions. Well, Paolo's a good friend of mine. So I guess when you mean acceptability, like acceptance on creating my business and actually getting support from that. So that's what you're meaning, right? Yeah. I guess for me, wow, coming from a big city like Chicago, I mean, I was born and raised in Chicago, you know, Cook County, not the suburbs. I always tell people when they meet me and they say they're from Chicago, they're like, oh yeah, I'm from Chicago too. And I ask them, I'm like, okay, where? They're like, oh, I'm from Schaumburg. I'm like, that's not Chicago. That's the suburbs. Anyways, so coming from a big city and relocating to a smaller city, for a while, I called it a town because for me, there was a huge difference. There wasn't that acceptance because for me, for them, I wasn't checking the box of how a Latina is or a person Latino is. And I've gotten a lot of past 10 years, maybe the first 6 years, I think it's getting better now, but it was all about, oh, so you relocated here. What country did you come from? There was a lot of stereotypes. They only knew one type of Latino, and they didn't understand that there's Latinos like me, that and my children, and you know, even my mom being born in the States. So I think that kind of acceptance wasn't there, because it wasn't that there were, you know, it was nothing with racism. It was just they didn't understand, and so organizations like Compañía and Latino professionals, and even myself and a lot of people in our Latino community have stepped up, and we're all like, well, you know, there is a difference. We're all Latinos, and that's the beautiful thing of being Latino. We're so diverse, but there's people that were born in the States, you know, that we're all Latinos. We've been here over like 500 years. But I think that was one step back that I had, that they didn't think that I was capable of managing their marketing, and really bringing in that multicultural marketing, because they weren't aware of that. So cross-cultural marketing, that was my big thing that I came in with. And they were really hesitant because they thought I was going to come in and say, you know what, you're wrong and I'm right. But my approach wasn't that way at all. But yeah, I think for me, that was the part that I wasn't accepted in that sense. But I did get the support from the Latino community and from the African American community was amazing. And then I think we're all working together, which is even now with the pandemic, I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Anyone else would like to comment on this question, or before we move to the next one?
I'll briefly say something as the veterana from this panel, having had a business in Chattanooga for a long time, 15 years. There's really been a shift in how the Latino community is seen. And I think it is due to work, like Jocelyn is saying, La Paz, and making our general community understand that we are a very diverse group of people. And that Chattanooga itself is a greatly diverse city, especially for the size. You know, we have immigrants from all over the world. Obviously, we're not focusing on Latinos, but I have clients from Africa, from Eastern Europe, from Asia, and it is amazing to me how diverse this city is. And I think maybe because I've worked primarily with the immigrant community, I would say that everybody's been very welcoming to me. I'm beginning to work with some, I guess, English-speaking non-immigrant businesses and organizations, and they've also been very welcoming to me. So it's a great shift in Chattanooga. And I have to thank La Paz and Jocelyn and actually Mayor Burke. I think he really has set the tone for the city and what this city is in this new century.
Thank you, Vivian. And I want to be respectful of everyone's time. It's 11 o'clock. We understand if you need to disconnect, but we have one more question. I think Juan Flores would like to ask a question for Jorge. Juan, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you so much. By the way, great job, everybody. This has been very, very beneficial for me. I've been listening to so long as I've been on. My question, I guess, is for anybody that it applies to. I guess it could go for the whole panel if they're interested in participating. But my question, I guess, was, have you guys thought of maybe moving into the digital space and creating like an online presence or an audience or something like that, and maybe moving into, I don't want to say e-commerce because that can take on a lot of other connotations, and people may assume that it's something that it's not, like it's bad, like drop shipping or whatever, like that negative connotation. But it like, have you guys thought of having a digital presence, whether that's on, and that's why I was trying to talk to George about that. Like, hey, have you thought about having like an online presence with Loa? Like, has that ever been a thought, or is anybody working on something like that?
Yeah, Juan, thank you for your question. Absolutely, especially given this day and age that, everything, it's all about social media and networking and all of that. Absolutely. Right now, the only social media presence we have for the business is we have a Facebook page where, occasionally we share the deals that we got going on, or we share information about COVID. When I partnered with Paulo with Sempa to do the testing, that was one way that we try to get the word out. But there's definitely still room to grow in that area. I guess just because I kind of come from an old school mindset with my dad, it's not a priority that we have on it, but I have had in my head that it is something that we need to start exploring more with, being able to reach to our customers, as far as, that
like, how cool would it be if somebody in
is.
Nashville can order some like custom cut steak or whatever, and then you get to ship it to them? You're like, yeah, you can have some of this too. Like, that's just, I don't know. I sound crazy sometimes when I think about it, but like, that's just where, thanks to Amazon, I would say, like, it kind of opened up a little Pandora's box where the possibilities really are endless for anybody that's already in the e-commerce space.
You can about get anything
delivered
to your front door nowadays, it seems like, including groceries. I mean, you can now, go into those big retail websites and get your groceries delivered from Walmart and Publix and other places. So it's crazy just how far we've come. And now with COVID, forcing us into this space now where we have to rely more on that part. Absolutely, we have thought more about that. Like I said, it's I think that part falls more on me because, like I said, my dad is more of an old school mentality kind of thing. So I mean, but yeah, absolutely, it's definitely something that I've had in mind for a long time.
I agree with you, George. I've contacted your dad several times.
I saw that.
I messaged you. I contacted him several times, including the Loas in Georgia. And you're right. It's I guess, even explaining to your dad about the wonders of social media. He was like a little hesitant. So I guess we need to talk, you and I, George.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't blame him. I've brought up even forming the Facebook page alone was something that took some convincing, but I got, it is a family business, so it's family operated. And now that my younger sister, she's 18 now and wanting to get her foot in the door, I've been trying to get her more into that side of it, to help me more with that, since, given her age and she's brought up from that. She's more familiarized with that, so it just takes a little bit of convincing, but we can get in that we can go in that direction.
Yeah, thank you everyone for
sorry, who's that? I guess for me,
it's Roscoe.
Roscoe, okay. Being as in the digital marketing industry, I've always told my clients, you need to really level up your marketing, especially now. And I've helped several of my clients do that, not only through web development, also redirecting their marketing, their branding. With Vivian, I know she just hopped out. I rebranded everything for Vivian. And again, it's just knowing how to do it. And there's resources on my website, so I don't want to take up much time for everyone. I'm going to put all that info on there.
Please do. Juan, thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you all for sharing, for your time, and for all that joined us today. We also, I don't know if you received an email from Lee lately, but we are putting together A professional resources list, that's not necessarily, it is a directory, but it's not a directory like the one we house in our Compañía page currently. That one is a directory of our Compañía members. And what we're doing now is putting together a list of professional resources that businesses can use. For example, if we have local Latino business that needs an accountant, or that needs an attorney, or that needs marketing services, things of that nature, we want to provide them with a list of people that they could reach out to. We are we're very fortunate in that way that we count within our network people and professionals in different fields. So if any of you are interested in giving us your information so we could add you to our list, that will be shared with, you know, local businesses, or sometimes when people want to start a business and they come see us and they don't know where to start, they're like, well, where can I find an account? Where can I find this? That's the list we would give them. So we have a few marketing firms that have bilingual capabilities. Right here we have two of them. We have Jocelyn Loza with Hoopla, and we have Roberto Venegas with Briones. And they both offer some of the services are the same and some of them are different. So if you don't find what you need with one, you could see the other. Briones also offers promotional products and website design and things of that nature. And Jocelyn does a lot of communication pieces. So we have resources for everybody. So again, if any of you want us to add you to that list, if you offer professional services and have the capability of reaching the Latino community, please let us know. Again, we'd like to thank our panelists today for your time, for sharing your experience and your expertise, for being so open about the challenges that you faced in 2020. We know it's a difficult subject for all of us, and sometimes we don't realize how difficult it is until we speak about it. And then we're like, yes, it really was hard. This really was challenging. And, you know, we start to open up. So thank you for sharing your stories. We hope you have all, you know, success the rest of the year and coming years. Thank you for adapting so well. And thanks to everybody that joined the meeting. I hope that you benefit from it. If you have any questions or want to reach any of the panelists, just let us know and we'll be happy to share that information with all of you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to our panelists for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.